Dr. Christopher West here to talk today about, have you noticed how our culture's kind of screwed up? So I think we probably all agree that our society has a cancer. And if we want to treat that cancer, makes sense, you got to go to the cellular level. What is the fundamental cell of society? In modern times, we might be tempted to think it's the individual, but think about it. You don't have a society with an individual. The fundamental cell of society is the fundamental human relationship. And the fundamental human relationship is the relationship between man and woman. Without that, there is no society. We're just talking the basic facts of life here. Mommy, daddy, baby, right? That's how civilization happens. And so we have the fundamental cell of society is the family. But again, to go with that cancer analogy, if we're going to treat that cancer at the cellular level, we have to go even deeper here. We have to get to the nucleus of the cell. And quoting here from my hero, St. John Paul II, he says, the nucleus of the cell, which is the family, the fundamental cell of society, at the nucleus, or in nacho terms, nucleus, at the nucleus of the family is the sexual act. Without the two becoming one flesh, there's no future. There's no society. Cancer, fundamental cell, nucleus of the cell. Let me paint a picture for you. From the union of man and woman springs the family, right? The sexual embrace builds families. Families build and shape neighborhoods. Neighborhoods build and shape communities. Communities build and shape cities. Cities build and shape states. States build and shape nations. Nations build and shape the world. Wise men and women throughout human history have always understood this. If there is chaos out here, trace it back. We've got to go the whole way back to the fundamental cell and then one step further into the nucleus, the sexual embrace. When there is chaos here, it creates chaos here. But when the sexual act is oriented towards the truth of love and life, it builds families that live the truth of love and life. It builds communities that live the truth of love and life. Cities, states, nations. The world gets shaped according to what's going on here. Think of it from this perspective. If what men and women are doing here is just serving their own selfish needs, if they're just looking at one another and treating one another as an object for their own pleasure, well, what happens when, inevitably it does, men and women face trials, face struggles? You're no longer bringing me the pleasure I want. Well, I discard you and I go find my pleasure elsewhere. The family breaks down. The neighborhood breaks down. The city breaks down. The state breaks down. The nation breaks down. And the world is in chaos. What would the world look like if we learned how to honor the basic fundamental fact? We can argue it, we can dispute it, and the world certainly is, but you can't erase it. Sex leads to babies. That's meant to be something celebrated. That's meant to be something rejoiced in. And in our world today, we treat it as a burden, a nuisance, something to erase. Women will even say things like, I got pregnant by accident. Dr. Janet Smith likes to point out, if you were having sex and you got pregnant, it does not mean something went wrong. It means something went beautifully right. What would the world look like if we shaped and directed all our sexual choices towards honoring the beautiful, glorious, wonderful truth that sex leads to babies? We'd live in a different world. If we truly directed our sexual energies towards honoring the next generation, towards fostering the next generation, and towards loving the one with whom I have generated the next generation. Now we have a rock on which to build civilization. Do you know what the very word civilization means? I'm not making this up. Look it up. It means something to the effect, in its original understanding, of making choices, civil choices, that afford proper generation of the next generation. Civilization happens by civilizing our sexual instincts, by directing our sexual instincts towards building civil society. When our sexual instincts are not geared towards building civil society, our sexual instincts become uncivilized. 50, 60 years ago, if a guy said to a girl, "I want to have sex with you," she could rightly assume, this guy wants to live with me for the rest of my life and raise children with me. That's awesome. Today, if a guy says to a gal, "I want to have sex with you," it means you're hot and I want an orgasm. This is kind of a window into the difference between civilizing our sexual energies and decivilizing them. Chaos, destruction out here gets traced back to the decivilization of the sexual instinct back here. We want to change this here. We want to bring love. We want to bring life. We want to flower and flourish here. Then we got to look at what's going on here. And it's not just those people out there that need to look at it. Those people over there who are screwing up. I got to look at what's going on in here. How do I think about sex? How do I treat other people? What's going on in my own mind, in my own heart? We are all in need of re-examination here. And we can all just as easily say, I'm in need of changing. If the world's got to change, I got to change. John Paul II's Theology of the Body, I want to propose to you, is a resource for changing the world at its source. I could say so much more about the gift of this teaching, and I do, in the courses that I offer at the Theology of the Body Institute, in our global community of patrons, where men and women around the world are taking this up, learning it, living it, and sharing it. Become part of this global community. Click the links below to learn more. If I said something of interest to you today, and you know others who need to hear what you've heard, share this video. Leave a comment below. Let's enter into conversation about this stuff. The Theology of the Body is a gift for our times, but it will do us no good if we don't inject it in our bloodstream. Let's continue this journey together.